Marcus Rashford has now scored 22 goals across all competitions this season, equaling the best single-season tally in his senior club career. Marcos Alonso, who scored obviously the opening goal for Barcelona, scored in each of his last 2 Champions League and Europa League games, as many as he had in his previous 46 games in those competitions. And Rashford now scoring in his 4th consecutive game in a row. CBS Sports Golazo show pointed out that it was 14 goals in 16 appearances since the World Cup, which to me is insane numbers right there. But talking points right here, Mike. We got to talk about Rashford and the form that he's in right now. I mean, this is just fabulous from Rashford. What he's doing is he's excelling his game to another level since the World Cup.
Yeah, I think he's figuring out how to get the best out of his teammates and really putting the game on his terms. His pace has been something that's been talked about. When he burst on the scene, he used his pace to devastating effect. And then I think he got caught up in wanting the ball to feet, wanting to do a couple step overs, wanting to do too much in the final third, lost his way a bit, lost confidence in front of goal. And I think the Euros had a lot to do with that. But man, oh man, Erik Ten Hag, he is the Rashford whisperer. What he's done with him at the start of the season, getting him on the left-hand side, giving him the option of cutting in on his right boot to go to goal. And now the next dimension of as soon as it gets to Casemiro, who we have to give plaudits to as well, being back in the team, we see the impact of that. I mean, Fred even looked like freaking Xavi at times. I had to put my glasses on. I couldn't believe it with some of the ways he was passing. Fred got the golden touch on the assist. Mind you, golf clap for the Brazilian on that. But I think that Ten Hag is so instrumental in Marcus Rashford's rise again to the top of his game because he's adding that element of running off the ball. As soon as Bruno Fernandes got the ball, as soon as Casemiro got the ball, it's automatic. There's no second guessing it. And credit to him on some of the chances he created. I thought the goal that he scored, I thought too many touches, maybe the long touch, but just the ingenuity, the power. Maybe we could say Ter Stegen could have done better on it, but I think he hit it just a flash shot at the near post to get the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to hear, such praise for Rashford again after he went through a very difficult period. Obviously, has come back into form this season, but, I don't think anyone expected him to hit the ground running post-World Cup in the way that he has. We've been talking about so many different players who have really struggled since the World Cup, but Rashford is, he's absolutely thriving. And it's great to see because this reminds me of the Rashford that I saw at Parc des Princes a couple of years ago, where you really thought, this kid is going to be, one of the top strikers in Europe. Then he went off the ball and you wondered if, you perhaps, you were missing something in your judgment. But it's great to see him back in this kind of form now. Actually, I wanted to take it back to the point that Nigel and Ian were making earlier about Weghorst, and this will probably, hit home with Nigel a little bit, because watching Weghorst reminds me a little bit of when Villa bought Emil Heskey. Now, I didn't really understand why we were going for Heskey at the time until I saw him live in a game, and you see how much work he does and sort of how much that frees up his teammates. How he brings other players into the game. And suddenly you have that immediate understanding of why managers want that kind of player in their team, not just because of the goals that they can score. And don't get me wrong, I knew that Heskey was always capable of hitting the back of the net. I didn't quite understand sort of what his work rate was about until I was actually able to keep my eyes on him on the pitch in front of me and see exactly what he was doing over the course of 90 minutes. And I'll be honest, it was the same for Thiago Motta as well when he joined PSG. I always thought he was this, tough tackling shithouse kind of guy who would just get, in people's faces with a bit of aggro, not at all sort of the technical metronome that he became for PSG. And I think, that there is, sometimes when you watch a game on TV, there's more than meets the eye to some of these players. So when you're looking at a player and they might not have some value when you're watching them just through the TV, if you see them out on the pitch, they're actually doing a completely different job. And it's
in the stadium
you
as
can't
well,
always get an appreciation for. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think JJ, that's some great points. And I was fortunate to play with Emil Heskey. So I saw it firsthand as a player, as a midfielder, what he brings to a team and how influential he can be, and the confidence when you've got a player like that, knowing he's going to start the game, you know what you're going to get. And it just breeds so much confidence throughout the team. I think for me, with going back to the Rashford situation, throughout your career, and I'm sure Ian probably would agree with this as well, and Michael, there's always a manager that you come with or come across that will make you feel that you're on cloud nine. That is what we're seeing with Erik Ten Hag and Marcus Rashford. It's that manager there. It's this one manager that is made him feel on cloud nine, made him feel invincible, made him feel like he is the best player in the world. And that's what you're getting. And this is something that people don't realize. It happens a lot where it's all about that personal touch with that manager. When that manager believes in you, feeds you that confidence and that belief, and also backs you in the press, you go out there and you're going to reward him by scoring goals. That is what Marcus Rashford is doing. A lot of his performance, well, everything we're seeing from Marcus Rashford now, a lot of credit has to come from Erik Ten Hag. And Erik Ten Hag says it. I haven't done nothing. I'm not a magician. But what he doesn't realize is whatever he's doing at the training ground, the personal connection that he's built with Marcus Rashford is the reason why he's playing like this. I had it with one manager when I had Gerard Houllier. He made me feel on top of cloud nine. And I know my footballing level went from one level to another just under him because of certain small things that he would say that really woke and kind of woke me up as a player. And just a quick example, we'll be doing a training session and you'll be concentrating on training as a player. And at the end of the session, Gerard Houllier will walk next to me and go, "You didn't give the ball away once today." And I wouldn't be thinking about that. But the fact of the managers watching and paying attention to who gives the ball away and says that, it just makes you feel that special, and it just gives you that confidence. And I think that's what we're seeing from Marcus Rashford. And before I give it to Ian, I'm not going to give this one to Mike. JJ and Ian, if you're Marcus Rashford right now of the current situation, what do? Do you sign a new deal and stay at Manchester United, or do you leave while you're on top?
JJ?
Honestly, I think it makes sense for him to stay on at Old Trafford. If Ten Hag wasn't in charge, I wouldn't be saying the same thing. But I think it feels like there's about to be a new dawn at Old Trafford. And I think that Rashford would love to be part of that. And I think, he could thrive in that as well, as long as United continue to back Ten Hag, as you said earlier. I think he's really onto something. The chances of United being back sort of in the Champions League and being a really established presence there in the next couple of years are quite strong based on what we've seen so far. And I think that it's probably the best move for Rashford to continue with United for the moment. To be honest, I think that Rashford would be taking a risk if he moved somewhere. Let's face it, he's probably not going to move somewhere else in the Premier League, so he'd probably move to Europe. I think he'd be taking a risk. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see more England internationals testing themselves, on the continental stage in different leagues. But just in this particular case, based on how things are going at the moment, it makes more sense to me that Rashford continues.
Stop shitting bricks. Stop shitting bricks, JJ, and just say, I would love to see him go overboard. Yes. You know you want to say Paris Saint-Germain, so stop shitting it.
Well, no, but I know that he's been linked with PSG. Do I realistically think that PSG will make a play for him? I don't. I think PSG, to be honest, based on their shortcomings, they'd be more likely to try and go all out for somebody like a Bellingham, even though they'd be way behind a number of teams in the queue.
Just a question for you, JJ, real quickly before you do switch that microphone back off there. Could Paris Saint-Germain potentially get Rashford now? Because there was a point maybe a month or two ago or whenever before this form, before the World Cup, was that PSG were heavily linked with him. But now, would PSG actually be a destination he'd like to go to, especially with the way that Manchester United are playing and Ten Hag doing the business he is right now? I'm not sure he'd want to go there.
Well, it depends. It depends if PSG get fed up with Neymar playing in poker tournaments, visiting McDonald's at midnight after Champions League defeats, whether they kick him out, whether they don't extend Messi's contract. I mean, a player like Rashford, of course, would be of interest to PSG, at least to explore the possibility. But, there's a lot of other things to factor into it. Obviously, Rashford would, command pretty hefty salary. Not necessarily on the same level as a Neymar or a Messi, but still, sort of substantial money when PSG do have to think of potential wage cuts coming into the summer. But also, I think there's the sort of cultural element as well. I said, don't get me wrong, I would love to see more English players going abroad, testing themselves, and not just necessarily going to the Bundesliga, going to other leagues as well and, learning a different style of play.
I don't agree.
But for me, I think that it might be a bit tough, the cultural adaptation for Rashford in Paris, unless PSG were to go with a couple of English talents or English-speaking talents. There's never been as few English-speaking players in that PSG squad as there are right now.
Well,
in
JJ,
a
I
number of
disagree
years.
with you. I think for me, the younger generation of English players are a lot more open to going abroad, and again, not just the Bundesliga. I think if the right opportunity came,
Yes.
this young generation is willing to go there.